If you want to constantly feed your licensing knowledge, we'd encourage you to sign up to the Licensing School blog. This and all the detail I mentioned will be proactively sent to all our licensing live webinar attendees via a handy email we'll send out Monday after each webinar. Now on to today's session. I'm delighted to introduce today's presenter. That's Rich Gibbons. Rich is a member of the Licensing School team based out of the UK and has over 10 years sales and licensing training experience in the channel. The Licensing School created and maintained Microsoft's worldwide Git licensing ready training portal. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's helped thousands of partners understand licensing right across the world. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to finish on a few housekeeping points for today. We have placed all attendees on mute except for our presenters. If any of you have dialed in from a mobile, I would ask you to check your mobile phone is on mute throughout the session. If you would like to ask a question along the way, please type these into the console and we'll do our best to answer any of those we can via a few scheduled stops, and this will help ensure we stick to the allotted time. Now, without further ado, let's hand over to Rich to take us through today's session. Rich, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone. Welcome back to those of you who joined me in the previous session 2 weeks ago. If you weren't with us that time, welcome for the first time. I'm sure you will enjoy today. Today we're going to be looking at licensing online services through open and open value. And what we mean by that, we're going to be looking at the products, so primarily Office 365, but also enterprise mobility and security, or EMS, because where there's an Office 365 opportunity, there's typically an EMS opportunity too. And then we're going to look at moving to the cloud. You've spoken to the customer, they're happy with Office 365. How do you get them to the cloud? And there are three options there: full USLs, add-ons, and bridge CALs. As always, any questions that you have, please do ask them in the Skype chat window. I want this to be as interactive and as useful, as much of a proper training session for all of you guys as possible. So, that said, let's begin with looking at online services. Those of you that were with me a couple of weeks ago will have seen this slide, and what this slide does, it lets us see all the Microsoft volume licensing agreements at an overview level, and we can see the differences between them. The larger organisations have the pink agreements at the bottom, smaller sort of sub 250 organisations, those blue across the top. We can see that there are transactional and committed. So transactional being agreements where customers can buy what they want as they need it. Committed, where organisations make a commitment to purchase certain things in certain amounts from Microsoft. What we can see here, all of them offer on-premises perpetual licensing, and the cloud icon shows us which ones have got cloud services available through them. And you'll see that all of them offer cloud services, except for Select Plus in the bottom left-hand corner, and that agreement type is very much close to becoming completely end of life. So what we're saying here, all the agreements offer cloud services, and we're going to be focusing on these at the top, so the open and open value agreements. So the first thing to do is look at Office 365 and make sure that we're all on the same page and happy as to what Office 365 is. So we know that it's the cloud versions of Microsoft's productivity servers and communication products. So here we've got four of the key aspects of Office 365. The Office 365 applications, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those kind of things. Then we've got Microsoft Exchange Online, and that's for email. And one of the things with cloud, for a user, they've typed their email, they've sent the email to them. It doesn't matter too much whether that email goes through an on-premises server or a cloud server. So organisations don't need to worry about impact on the user. It's all about benefits to the business and the IT team. So Exchange Online makes that email up in the cloud nice and easy. SharePoint Online, I'm sure you're all familiar with that, and that's around collaboration. So allowing people to work together, being able to access files, share files between their organisation as they need to, and again, hosting that up in the cloud. And then Skype for Business Online, communications, so being able to IM, voice chat, web conference, all those kinds of things. These are the 4 main aspects of Office 365 that customers will perhaps already be familiar with. Or if they're not, when you start talking to them, these will be typically where a conversation would start. So I think everyone's probably familiar with Office 365 and the benefits that it brings, but now that also leads us into enterprise mobility and security, or for the purposes of finishing in an hour, EMS. What EMS does, it gives us the answers to problems that are possibly brought up by the previous slide. So here we've got the kind of story that EMS solves. So you have the users, and nowadays, working with the cloud, they want to be able to work in any location. They want to be able to access all their resources from any of these different locations. Fantastic for a user. So they say to IT, this is what we're going to do, but we're also going to use all these different devices. So we're going to start doing bring your own device, multiple Windows devices, iOS, Android. We're going to be using different devices in different locations so that we can be more productive. And to be more productive, we're going to use all these different apps and applications as well. So ones that the business has given us, but also ones that we found ourselves and decided, for me personally, this app will help me work better. So from a user perspective, that's fantastic. But then with all that, the data on all those devices, in all those places, from all those users, still needs to be secured. You need to make sure that things are happening in a compliant manner. And that's IT. So they have the users have this wonderful scenario where they've got freedom and productivity left, right and centre, but IT are the ones who need to keep it secure. So if you're talking to an IT manager, these are the 4 things that they will say, or the 4 areas that they will be looking at. Identity and access management, making sure that it's the correct user and making sure that they're accessing only the correct things. Mobile device management, if you've got all these devices, you need to make sure they're being managed securely. The applications on top of them, you need to, again, if you're IT, make sure that the applications are only being used in the correct way and are being used for the right things. And then finally, even when you've done all that, you still need to protect your information. So, with USB drives and things being emailed around, even if it leaves that secure device, you need to be as confident as you can that that data is secure. And it will be no surprise to you, I'm sure, that Microsoft have got a range of products that address all these different areas. So you'll see on the left Azure Active Directory Premium, for example, solving that user identity piece. Over on the right-hand side, Azure Information and Protection Premium, keeping the files and the data safe. And then in the middle, the device and application management is looked after by Microsoft Intune. And again, those products together, they comprise EMS, or Enterprise Mobility and Security. So as you're talking to an organisation about Office 365, you can see how an EMS conversation can often be a natural extension of that. All the benefits of Office 365, make sure that you can still manage them as well. So now that we've looked at what the online services in question are, we're going to start looking at how they're licensed. And the first thing to see is that they're all licensed with a user subscription license, or a USL. And the clue is in the name, but this is something of a departure for organisations that are used to licensing previously. So here, the license is assigned to the user. So typically, Microsoft has been licensed by device. So they would put the license on the device, and any user can access that. With the online services, it's the other way around. The license is assigned to the user, and they're able to use any device. So this lends itself to the bring your own device, flexible working trends that we're seeing more and more of these days. Now, on this note, a question that you will quite possibly hear from customers, you may even have thought of it yourself right now. What if I've got, or my customer's got shift workers? Let's say, we've got 60 users and they work in 3 shifts of 20. Could I buy 20 USLs and move them between the users as they come in and out to do their shifts? The answer is no. So user subscription licenses can be reassigned, but the usual Microsoft 90-day rule applies. So while you can move it between people, you can only do it once every 90 days. So in an organisation where you have shift workers, you would need to license each individual user. So if you have 60 users, you would need 60 USLs. So I find that something, it's important to bear that in mind when you're talking to certain types of customers, because you may need to have a conversation with them about the change in licensing strategy before you can move on to selling Office 365. But once they're happy, once you're ready to talk to them, the first thing to do is for you to look at your customer base and think about ideal target customers. The cloud opportunity is huge. How do you best get started with focusing your efforts on perhaps what we might call the low-hanging fruit? So the first pillar, migrating from on-premises solutions. This is an excellent place to start. And when I worked in direct sales in the channel, this was always the best place to start, I felt. So this is organisations, they're using Microsoft solutions right now, but they're a couple of versions back. So maybe it's Exchange 2010, Exchange 2007, SharePoint 2010. So they're on the older versions. So there's a conversation to be had about moving to the new versions. That would make sense for the new features and functionality. But it makes sense again to have that conversation while you're doing that upgrade, Mr. Customer. Let's move to the cloud. You get the new features, but an on-premises solution, it's hard work typically for an IT department. There's things to be patched, upgraded, hot fixed. You need to do your backups every evening, store them, restores, all these things which are just general overheads of having on-premises systems. If you do that upgrade into Office 365, Microsoft will look after that, freeing up your customers' IT staff to do more proactive things. And it also means, because of the benefits of the cloud and software as a service, things are constantly being kept up to date. So there are no more big upgrades, shifts from 2010 to 2013 to 2016. You just get the new features, things happen in the background. It allows for a much more productive use of IT. So I always found that to be a very, very useful place to start. Customers, once you show them the benefits, they still get as good, if not better, a user experience, but without all the work at the back end. It's a very compelling message. The second one to look at is organisations that are already using cloud in one way or another, and typically this could be that they're using personal cloud for business. So maybe they're using OneDrive personal or something like Dropbox or Gmail, those kind of things. So they're already on board with the benefits of cloud. And what this is about is moving them to a properly corporate ready, secure, enterprise level cloud system, all the same benefits they're used to and more, but with added security and a better upgrade path for their business. And the third one is for organisations that are looking to invest in the business rather than just in IT. And what we mean by that is it could be a startup or a company who's looking to do some rapid growth and expansion. They want the lowest upfront cost. They don't want to be investing significant amounts of capital in assets right now. So the cloud, it allows them to get started, 1 or 2 users. Quickly you can scale up to 1,000 users if you need to. So you can see different kinds of customers. It could be a new customer, could be someone who's just opened a new branch, and a new office. You can use the cloud to get up and running quickly and very cost effectively. So I would say those 3 elements are the good places to focus on when it comes to which customers to look at for targeting Office 365 and EMS. So hopefully that's given you some ideas as to where you can look at within your customer base as to where to get started. But of course, when you talk to the customer, they will have some objections. It's natural, for anything, particularly cloud, which can represent a bit of a shift for them. So here we've got 4 common questions. How safe are my applications and data in the cloud? Well, they're quite safe. They're very safe, in fact. Microsoft, if anyone's going to be able to build a data center securely running Microsoft products, it's going to be Microsoft. There's a lot of security at a physical level, hardware and software level, keeping things safe in the Microsoft data centers. And we'll see in a second, there's a lot of resources available for you to help work with your customer to explore that in more detail. Will the cloud increase my regulatory risk? So this, where organizations are regulated, things, Sarbanes-Oxley, HIPAA, G-Cloud, all these different industry regulations, does Microsoft comply with them? Absolutely. It's always worth checking for your customer's specific case, but Microsoft Cloud is highly, highly regulated and compliant across all different kinds of industries. So you can be confident that that will be a good conversation to have. I can't move everything to the cloud. That's perfectly fine, Mr. Customer. No one expects you to. This could be a customer, they've got an old legacy email system, but they've recently upgraded SharePoint. They don't want to scrap that SharePoint investment and move everything into Office 365. And as we'll see in the licensing detail, moving just one load into the cloud, moving just your email or just Skype, no problem at all. So very flexible. And finally, other options are cheaper. Then you have a conversation about what does cheaper mean. It may be that an on-premises solution, the number at the bottom of the quote is less than the cloud solution. But when you factor in the reduced IT admin of the upgrades and the hot fixing and the backup, the restores, the fact that you're not powering the servers, you're not cooling the servers, all these additional cost savings that the cloud brings, when you factor that in, it gives you, a total cost of ownership. Overall, if you're looking at 3 to 5 years, for example, the thing that is cheaper on the quote now, is it still cheaper over that 5-year period? Those are the kind of conversations that lend themselves to cloud. And we'll see here 3 resources that help tie in with these. So the first one, if you search for the Office 365 Trust Center, there's all manner of information in there, focused on the legal side, the compliance side. Excellent. Anyone, if you're in the security industries or working with customers who are, I think you'll spend quite a long time on the Trust Center. And then these other 2 websites, again, giving more information, more credence to the Microsoft Cloud message and what answering questions that customers might have. So I would recommend spending some time becoming familiar with those and also having them to hand and sending those links to customers as part of your discussions with them. So this brings us to our first interactive part of today. So I've got 3 different scenarios and I would like to see what you say to them. So the first one, I understand that Office 365 is a cloud service. So does that mean that I need an internet connection to use Excel? So this is a very common question. So if you can pop in to the Skype window, absolutely, we've got people on there straight away. So Craig says no. Fantastic. Monica, no, the apps still run locally on your machine. Absolutely. And this, as I say, is a very, very common question from customers. They hear that it's a cloud service, so they assume that the Office component runs in the cloud and you can't use PowerPoint if you're in a tunnel. Everyone getting that spot on. Apps are installed locally, just like with regular Office. But the other difference with Office 365 and Office is that you get 5 installs per user. So still get the local installation, but you get the 5 installs as well. So very well done, everyone. So the second one, isn't Office 365 just the latest version of Office? So I don't need a new version of Office. I'm fine, thank you. What would you say to that? And this again is quite a common comeback from a customer initially. Monica, fantastic answer. No, it's a bundle of Office productivity tools to allow you to run your business better. It's a fantastic answer, and it sums up Office 365 very well. And because it's software as a service, Microsoft are constantly adding in additional products, the video channel, Sway, all these other things that just keep on adding value. And then finally, I've got some concerns about security and compliance. Legal are going to give me a very hard time if I start talking about Office 365. What kind of things would you say to that? And again, while it might be different for each customer, having an answer that you can give just to show that you're familiar that this is an objection, but you know how to handle it. So Microsoft have got security and compliance certificates. Refer them to the Trust website. Absolutely, let them know that it's not a problem. There are a lot of resources out there. Rather than trying to talk them through everything, send them to the Trust Centre, let them explore themselves, and then arrange a call 3 or 4 days later to go through and address any outstanding objections that they might still have. Fantastic, very well done. That's a marvellous start. So with that, now that we've looked at the products and where we might sell them and how to focus them, we're going to look more in depth at the licenses that are available and the different plans, as we call them. So here we've got this slide. It looks quite busy perhaps at first, but this is an excellent slide to really get an idea of what's available and the differences between them. So effectively, we can split these plans into 2 groups. On the left, we've got the business plans, and on the right, we've got the E, or the enterprise plans, and then the Office 365 Pro Plus sits in with those enterprise plans. Now, the first thing to see here, with the business plans, there is a user maximum of 300 users per plan, while the enterprise plans are unlimited. So this is the first thing to think of when you're working with a customer. It may be that they've seen the business plans online, they come to you, can we get some of these? First thing, understand customer size. Is this 300 user limit going to become a problem for them? Just to make sure that from the very outset, it's the most applicable product that's being discussed. And if we go across from the left, what we'll see, first of all, in the second column, we've got the individual plans. So you see there, Exchange Online Standard Plan 1, Enterprise Plan 2. And what we're showing here is that whilst very much you have the suites, you can also buy standalone products. So if you have a customer who just wants to move to Exchange Online, or they just want Skype for Business Online, it's possible to do that with these standalone plans. Now, Monica makes a very good point about the business plans and terminal services. So, absolutely correct. I will come to that in just a second on this slide, just to discuss that in more detail. So, what we've got then, we've got the different suites. We've got the Business Essentials, and this is all the productivity servers, but without Office. So it could be that you've got a customer, they've just bought Office perpetual licenses, and they don't want to rebuy, but they do want some of the cloud services. So Business Essentials would work well. You can have those two sitting alongside each other. And then Business is almost the opposite of that. Business is the Office product without the cloud services. There's no Exchange, there's no SharePoint. So if you have customers who like the idea of having the Office applications available to users, 5 installs, but they really don't want to have cloud email or cloud collaboration, that's fine. You can talk to them about the business plan. And then Business Premium combines the two and gives them the Office applications and the cloud services. And then the E-plans, in many ways, follow the same strategy. E1 is the productivity services without Office, whereas E3 is the productivity servers and includes Office too. But there are a few differences to talk about. One is that you'll see where we have the Plan 2 rows, there are no ticks for those in the business section. If customers are using enterprise features of Exchange or SharePoint and want to replicate using those features in the cloud, they will need to look over at E3 or E5. So again, when you're working with customers, making sure that you have a full picture of what they're currently doing and what they want to continue to do to make sure you match up to the correct cloud plan. And then Office is the other piece to discuss, which is what Monica brought up there. The difference here, in business, you get Office 365 applications, whereas in the E-plans, you get Office 365 Pro Plus. And there is a difference. So you'll see the asterisk there showing us that the Pro Plus includes access. So any customers you have who need access as the desktop database client, they will need to look at either the standalone Office 365 Pro Plus plan or one of the E-suites. And the other thing is that remote desktop services or terminal services, you can't use the business plans version of Office in those environments. So if you've got a customer who's using terminal services or remote desktop services, business won't work for them. They will need to look at either the standalone Office 365 Pro Plus, if Office is all they want, or if they're looking at additional services as well, they would need to look at E3 or E5. So it's very much, business is one of those, the business plans work fantastically when they work, but if they don't work, there's a real technical reason for that, and the customer will need to look at the E-plans. So that slide I find is very useful for giving an overview of what's available. If anyone's got any questions on any of the specifics there, please do let me know. But otherwise, we're going to move through. So, Andrew, does the IDS take up one of the 5 licenses? So, for the user, it uses one of their 5 installs that they're allowed to have, but it's sitting on the server doesn't, if that's what you're asking, I think. So for the user, yes. Excellent, there we go. So for buying online services through Open, I think it's important that we take a look at how that process works. This is something that involves the customer, the partner, the distie, and Microsoft. So if we take a look at how it works, here we've got an open agreement runs for 2 years, as we know, and I've broken that up into quarters, so each chunk is a 3-month quarter. And this customer, they bought some Office 2016 perpetual licenses at the start of this agreement, but now, at the end of the first quarter, they think to themselves, do you know what? That was an excellent conversation I've just had about Office 365. I'm gonna get some E1 licenses for some of my users. I think this will, really add some benefit. So here they place an order, and they get an email that comes through. So it'll come through Ingram to the partner, to the customer, and this has got the link to the VLSC where the customer can go and get their product key. So you still have a product key, and that key will unlock the exact number of Office 365 USLs that was placed on the order. So that's the first thing, to expect that you will get that email back, as you're perhaps familiar with for other products. Customer goes to VLSC or the Volume Licensing Service Centre to get those keys. The next point is that it's not when you order the licenses, but it's when you activate the licenses that the subscription actually starts. So you'll see here, this customer, they had a few things going on, and it actually took them another 3 months after they'd bought those licenses to activate them. But they've not lost 3 months. The 12-month subscription starts from the point of activation. So that's a good thing to know about. That comes up quite often with customers. What happens if I'm not ready to start using them? No problem at all. And you can have them for up to 5 years and still activate them. So what we'll see here now, at the 12-month point, there is an Office 365 renewal date, and that doesn't correlate to the underlying agreement in any way. So that renewal date is before the renewal date of the agreement. It could, had we purchased them in a different place, be after the agreement end date as well. So those two things are separate. So the customer's using this, it's fantastic. Again, 3 months later, it's so good that they decide to add some more Office 365 E1 licenses. They purchase them, they activate them, and what you'll see here now, and this is something that you might already have thought about, they've activated them at different times, so now they've got different renewal dates. And that is difficult to manage. No one wants to have multiple renewal dates. So what we do, we take that extra bit, we cut it off, and we divide it equally between the subscriptions and give both of them a new end date that's the same. So in this example, if it was 10 days difference, you would take that 10 days, cut it in half, and add 5 days onto them there. So what we're saying here, and this is what we call blending, for Office 365 through Open, the customer will always have one renewal date. So even if they end up buying 2 licenses on Monday, 3 on Wednesday, another day after, and keep it up like that, the process, and it's an automatic process as well, so you don't need to calculate all these different end dates and submit anything. The system will do that for you. So your customers will always have the one renewal date. And I think that's something that customers are always very, very pleased to hear, that even if they grow their cloud slowly, they only have one renewal date to manage throughout the year. So to do a recap on buying the online services, these are the 6 sort of key things really. The customer pays up front for those 12 months. So at the time of order, they pay for those 12 months. The online services subscription, it's not coterminous with the underlying agreement, so it can finish before or after the agreement itself does. That's no problem. The subscription starts when it's activated, not when it's purchased. You get one key, which activates exactly the number of USLs, so that makes things easy. If you buy 87, you don't get 87 different keys, which, as I say, a common question from customers. When new users are added, you get the blended renewal date, and I think that is definitely one. Even if the customer doesn't bring it up, proactively mention it, because it will occur to them at some point. And there's no minimum order quantity other than obviously 1. So now I want to show you briefly how things line up. So you can see here on the left, we've got the on-premises services, Exchange Server, SharePoint Server, SharePoint Server Enterprise, CALs, those kind of things. And over on the right, we've got those cloud services, so Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and other Cloud PBX, Power BI Pro, other cloud-specific services. And in the middle, you can see the different suites and how each plan contains different services. That's quite a good way of seeing on one slide what you get in the different plans. I also want to show you these arrows in the middle. You'll see they're pointing left to show that you get access to the on-premises, and right to show you get access to the cloud. So this is what we call dual access rights, and this is again very good to talk to customers about. If they're working in a hybrid environment, so some servers are going to be on-premises, some are going to be online. Using the E-plans, you get these dual access rights, so you can have customers, your users can be accessing in the cloud and on-premises using those same Office 365 licenses. So that makes customers who aren't ready to move all into the cloud yet, makes things much easier for them. So dual access rights is a good one to talk about. So with that, we get some true or falses, so we get some more interaction, which I always enjoy. So, true or false? Office 365 E1 does not include Office. Straight away, true. Very well done. Number 2, the Office 365 subscription aligns with the underlying open agreement. Marvellous, seeing people coming in immediately. False. I'm enjoying just going with an F for real efficiency. I like that. Very well done. And third, when new users are added, the renewal date will move and it's automatically recalculated. People in there with the correct answer of true before I'd even finished talking. Fantastic. Brilliant. So we've looked at the full USLs. Now we're going to look at something called add-on USLs. So what are add-ons and why might one want to do this? Well, let's take a look at our different workloads that we've got here. So down the left, you can see the typical things: Windows, the productivity servers, so Exchange and SharePoint and Skype, Office, all the different things a customer might go for. And here, a traditional customer on open value, we know open value, you make that commitment across one of these products or possibly all of them. So here, this customer, they've got their Windows, they've got their Office Professional Plus, and they've got their CAL suite. And that's fine, that's how it always has been. If we consider another customer in the same scenario, but then you've been speaking to them about Office 365 and they're fully on board, they think this sounds fantastic, they really want to start investigating the world of cloud, what they can do is add on Office 365. So here, they've got their on-premises licenses, and they want to just add on the hosted productivity servers. So they want to keep what they've got, so they're not making any radical changes, but they do want to start investigating the world of cloud. So you can sell them the add-on USL that sits on top of that and gives them access to Office 365 E1. Or for another customer who's had that full conversation, they can add on E3, and you can see down at the bottom they can add on EMS as well. So here they've still got the on-premises licenses that they purchased, but they're also just adding on these USLs. And these USLs, very much from a price perspective, take into account the fact that this customer has already paid Microsoft a fair amount of money for these licenses, so it takes that into consideration, and these add-ons are a reduced cost option to give customers access to the Office 365 services without costing too much. So the rule, add-on functionality, so organisations, they have to already have these qualifying licenses. And then there's the second part of this that's really something to bear in mind. Add-ons are only available to customers with an organisation-wide commitment. So we saw on the slide near the beginning the different kinds of agreements. Those that are organisation-wide commitment, that would be open value company-wide and open value subscription, where they've chosen to take one or more of those products across all their devices. As for which add-ons are available, we can see here down the left, those are the qualifying licenses that would already be on that agreement. And then along the top, we've got the different add-ons. So what you can see here, and what you need to think about with add-ons, is they represent an immediate sales opportunity. So any of your customers that have got open value company-wide and or open value subscription, and they've got a core CAL suite on there, you can immediately think, right, all of those are an E1 add-on target. I will go and speak to them. We'll cover the benefits of E1. We'll talk about the fact that they can add those licenses on, and that, you don't need to wait till the renewal or the anniversary. That can be an order that you can win right now. So add-ons, they make it easier for the customer to get started with cloud, and they make it easier for you to add incremental revenue as well. So for anyone with open value company-wide or open value subscription, I would definitely recommend taking a look through your customer base and thinking about where you could start having that add-on conversation. The other option is bridge CALs. So these are used when customers want to transition or move into the cloud sort of fully, as it were. So back to this slide here, we've got these customers that we've seen with their add-ons, but here we've got the customer, they've got their Windows and their Office Professional Plus as normal, but then they want to move to E1 USLs. Fantastic, brilliant. But what you'll see here, if you look at that band across the middle of the productivity servers and the core infrastructure, so that band is covered by the CAL suite. But this customer now, because they've gone to the E1 suite, it covers half of it. It covers the productivity servers half, but there's a gap because E1 doesn't include core infrastructure. And by core infrastructure, we mean Windows Server and System Center. So there's a gap. And customers, when they make that commitment, when they buy the CAL suite on the agreement, they're committing to Microsoft. They will continue to pay for all those components through to the end of the agreement. So here, there's a gap and we need to fill it. And that gap is filled, or bridged, as it were, by a core CAL bridge. So to look at this in a little bit more detail, we've got here, down at the bottom, we've got our CAL suite, and you can see the 6 components of the core CAL suite: Exchange, SharePoint, Skype for Business on the left, and then the core infrastructure on the right, Windows Server CAL, and the 2 System Center pieces. So this customer, they've been talking about hosted. They think E1 works for them. So they take a look, and you can see E1 includes Exchange Online, and that ticks off the Exchange Standard CAL at the bottom. And the same thing for SharePoint and Skype for Business. Those components of E1 match up to those components of the core CAL, and that's absolutely brilliant. But as we turn towards the cloud now, we'll see that we're still missing ticks against those 3 core infrastructures. So what we do here, we get the bridge CAL, and the way to think about them, the name is quite a nice way of remembering it. This, you have the bridge, and the first part of the name is where you're coming from. So you're coming from the core CAL across the bridge to Office 365. And we'll see that that core CAL bridge includes the 3 core infrastructure components. So now everything in that blue box at the bottom has been ticked off. So if we go back to this, you'll see now this customer in the final column, they have got all 3 of their grey bands covered, just as in the other examples. And it's because of that combination of the E1 suite and the Office 365 bridge CAL. So any time where there's going to be a gap, that's where a bridge CAL would come in. So to look at a few more rules around bridge CALs, and if this is the first time you've heard about bridge CALs and you're thinking, oh wow, this is fun, don't worry. it all makes sense. I think once it sinks in and you've seen the handout and the follow-up information from Ingram, and obviously if you've got any follow-up questions, you can talk to Ingram as well. Once you're happy with them, bridge cows become a lovely part of the world of licensing. So these additional rules around bridge cows now. So as we've said, it's required when there's a transition to the cloud, but you need to maintain that on-premises Cal suite commitment. It's available only in open value, so you can't do these in open. But a difference to add-ons, here we're saying you can see organisation-wide and non-organisation-wide customers can take advantage of this. So that opens up the pool of customers you can talk to. Bridge cows, always USLs, so always a user subscription license. Another point around business here, you can't use Office 365 business plans with a bridge cow. So bridge cows need to be used with those enterprise plans, E1, E3, EMS. So if you've got organisations that are looking at business plans, it may be the fact that they're able to use bridge cows might help move them towards looking at an E-plan. And finally, bridge cows can only be used at anniversary. So if you've got a customer who, at their anniversary, they say, right, we want to make this change, no problem at all, you can put the order through with the bridge cows. If it's what we call mid-term, so if it's between those anniversaries and they're really keen and eager to get started with cloud, that's when you would use the add-ons. So you would say to them, right, for now we'll use the add-ons, and then come to anniversary, we can then look at using the bridge cows. So that is key to remember, I think, that mid-term add-ons, anniversary, bridge cows. And then to give you an idea of the kind of transitions that tend to come up most often, we've got these here. So you'll see if you've got a customer with a core Cal suite, the most common transitions, it's going to be Office 365 E1 and that core Cal bridge for Office 365, or it will be the EMS suite and the core Cal bridge for EMS. So when you look in the price list, you'll be able to see the different core Cals and the different bridges. And hopefully now that you've seen first part of the name where you're coming from, final part of the name where you're going to, this should help decipher anything in the price list. And then if they've got a Cal suite and Office Professional Plus, they'll be able to move to E3 and the relevant core Cal or eCal bridge. And they need to have Office Professional Plus there because E3 includes Office Pro Plus 365. So back to our finally fully built slide. Now this, it might look quite busy, but this slide is fantastically useful. And what we're showing here is the flexibility, and this isn't fully exhaustive, but it shows the flexibility that's available to customers when combining on-premises licensing with cloud licensing. So you can see here, the customer in the final column, they've gone for E5 and EMS, full USLs, so they're fully committed into the cloud, all the services. That's fantastic. But there's a range of different options leading up to that point as well. In the second column, these customers primarily on premises, they've gone with the E1 add-on as a taster, just to start maybe a project, a pilot to see how Office 365 works for them. And then moving through all these different combinations. And the customer in the penultimate column, you'll see they've got Office 365 Pro Plus, they've got EMS, but they don't have the hosted productivity servers. If they wanted to, they could move that E1 add-on and slide it across to fill that gap, and that would give them, again, the full cloud suite. So you can see here, anywhere that you can slide these different blocks around shows how you can have different combinations to fulfill your customers' requirements. So I really like that slide. I think it does a very good job of showing the flexibility that's available, and that's important when talking to customers, to let them know that yes, They will have to change in some way their licensing model, but it's absolutely very, very flexible, and they can change as much or as little of it as they feel comfortable with to start with. So hopefully that gives you a good look at the flexibility there. And that takes me to a final what would you recommend set of scenarios. So these are building on everything that we've seen up to now. So they're perhaps a little bit trickier than the ones earlier. So a customer says to you, I've already got Core Cal Suite and Office. Can I just effectively pay the difference to get some E3? What would your recommendation be in that scenario? So this is thinking about the situation. So they've got Office perpetual licenses, they've got the Cal Suite on the open value agreement, and they're wanting to get access to E3. What would your initial recommendation be for this customer? So if we go back to this slide, if we think about it now, so they've got Office and they've got Core Cal, and they're just thinking to themselves, right, I want to get some E3 here whilst keeping what I've already got. What would the best recommendation be? Marvelous. There we go. E3 add-on USL. Absolutely. So that customer there, they're saying, this is what we've got. We want to keep it, but we want to make that first step into the cloud. So Monica, fantastic. You can see there, E3 add-on USL would be the perfect thing to recommend there. Marvelous. So a customer says, right, we've got on-premises servers that we still need to access if we went to the cloud. So we're more than happy to move to Office 365. We can see the benefits, but we've still got some on-premises servers. So we might have Exchange Online in the cloud, but also an Exchange server on-premises. And for a time, at least, we will need to access both of them, both online and on-premises. So is there what feature of Office 365 would you talk to them about to help address that need? So we're getting some answers coming through. So this is more around one of the features of the plan. So I think the thing to do here is think about the different features that are available with the E-plans specifically. So if we look back at this slide, we can see here we've got E1, E3 and E5. And in this scenario, we've got a customer, they're thinking, right, I've got some on-premises servers. So I've got an Exchange server. I will need to access that, but I will also need to access Exchange Online. So we've got some on-premises on the left, we've got some cloud on the right. So first of all, is a customer able to do that? Can they access on-premises and online servers? So I think, so if a customer said to you, I've got some on-premises servers, there we go, Monica, can a customer access on-premises and online? Yes, they can. So you'll see, in fact, any of these plans, E1, where you've got Exchange server, SharePoint server and Skype for Business server, you've got those rights to access those on-premises or in the cloud. So E1, E3 and E5 give those rights. And at the bottom, EMS gives those rights as well for its products. So absolutely, if a customer wants to access on-premises and online services, they can do, and that's using these dual access rights that are present within the Office 365 suites. So if they're using E1, E3 or E5, they'll be able to access on-premises and online servers. No problem at all. So now the third recommendation, customer, they say, right, we've got CoreCal and we've got Office, and this is on our open value company-wide agreement. We've got our software assurance. We're happy with them, but we also want to go to the cloud and we want to move to user licensing for those hosted productivity servers. So we think we're going to go to the E1 plan. We want to do this on our current agreement. So we want to maintain our on-premises licensing for certain parts and move other parts to the cloud. What licensing solution would you recommend for them there? So if we look back here, so we've got customers, they've got the CoreCal suite, but they want to move to E1. And we know that E1 doesn't include everything that the CoreCal suite does, so there'll be a gap. So to fill that gap for this customer, what would we recommend? So if we think about the different types of licenses that we've seen, we've got the full USLs, the add-ons, and the bridge CALs. So where we're working with customers who want to transition from on-premises into the cloud, what's the best thing to do? Monica, fantastic CoreCal bridge. So anything, just like in this scenario here, where the customer says, you know, we've got CoreCal and Office, but we also want to move to the cloud and move to the user licensing. Any scenario like that will start you thinking about bridge CALs, and then it's a case of looking at the CAL suite that they've got, other licenses that they've got on their agreement, and which cloud services they're able to bridge. So here, you know, they've got the CoreCal and they've got Office, so we can actually see that for those guys, you know, they would be able, got CoreCal and Office, they would be able to move to E3 or E5. If they just had CoreCal, they'll be able to move to E1. So, you know, very much a case of thinking about what they've got on their agreement, what do they want to do, and working out which bridge CAL works best for them. So I know that there's quite a lot of licensing information in that session. You know, add-ons and bridge CALs, quite new concepts, you know, that don't exist in other parts of open licensing. So, you know, thank you very much for interacting, and you know, we got there with those, and I hope those solutions at the end just showing you the kind of things to think about and where you might have to apply add-ons or bridge CALs. So that is my final slide. So as I say, thank you very much for that. The interaction, as always, as last time, was fantastic. I very much enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And with that, I will pass back over to David.
Well, thank you, Rich. Yeah, I'll take one of your, I think, lines here. Bridge CALs are fun. A lovely part of the world of licensing. Well, thank you for that. You know, there was a lot of content there, and I do thank the audience for sticking with us. We probably went a little bit over time, but you know, Rich had a lot to cover, and Rich, thanks ever so much. Thanks again for the interaction. We have David and I have been sat here looking at our contributors, and I'm sorry, but we've got Monica wins a $50 voucher there. Andrew as well, Andrew Biscoff, and I think Alan. Yeah, there you go, Monica. Well done. And also Alan W. I think there's three there that we thought were showing some good interaction. So thank you for that. Now, there is the content there. Don't forget, we've got this 2-page PDF that is really helpful. It's a really helpful guide. Now we're going to get that out to you. What Ingram do is send out a follow-up email, and that will have access to the recording, access to the PDF. It will also highlight the blog as well, which is pretty handy to have. Now, don't forget, next Licensing Live webinar is going to be on the 3rd of November, and we're going to have a look at Windows 10 and also Windows Server. As you know, Windows Server has been in the news recently with the latest version there, so look out for that. Like I say, we'll send out the EDM that will go out by Monday, and you'll have access to all the supporting detail, also access to the Licensing School blog, which is, I use that myself, to be honest, and I find that really helpful just to keep abreast of all the licensing news. So look out for that. Now, in the meantime, if you do have any questions, you can email them to the team at licensinglive@ingrammicro.com. Let me just put that in the window, if I can get my cursor to work there. So that's there. Please, if you've got any questions, please let the team have them, and they'll turn them around as quick as possible for you. But thanks again ever so much for joining today. On behalf of Ingram Micro and Microsoft and the Licensing School team, have a great evening. Thank you.